We ready? Well, good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. That's better. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Welcome to Convo. We're glad to have you here. We've got a very special guest with us at Convo this morning. Terry Bellamy is with us. Terry is a native of Asheville, where she grew up and did her schooling elsewhere, came back to Asheville, was elected to city council in Asheville beginning in 1999. Is that right?
Yes.
And then was elected as mayor of Asheville, served for 2 terms as mayor of Asheville. She became the youngest mayor in North Carolina history. Is that right?
At the time.
At the time, at the age of 33.
Yes.
Was mayor at 33. That's a pretty young age to become mayor of any major city. She was elected in 2005, re-elected again in 2009. She chose not to run for a 3rd term. In the meantime, ran for a congressional seat, the 10th district here in western North Carolina, a seat that's occupied by Congressman Patrick McHenry. As I mentioned, she's a native of Asheville, graduated from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte with a degree in English. She also has a master's in public affairs from Western Carolina University and is currently working on her doctorate in educational leadership, also at Western Carolina. Terry is married to Lamont Bellamy and has a son, age 12, a daughter, age 11, and we had a delightful time this morning getting acquainted and kind of preparing for this morning. So please give Terry Bellamy a warm Montreat welcome. So Terry, as we were talking this morning, we were talking about a whole range of things. Let's start with growing up in Asheville. You were the oldest of 4 children. Your mother was a single parent and who worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. She had you at a very young age. You actually helped raise your 3 younger siblings. Tell us about what it was like to grow up in your home.
I'll be happy to do that, but first let me say, Paul, thank you for this opportunity. It's always great to be on Montreat's campus. It's a great facility. I love your campus. It's very beautiful. I used to spend a lot of time out here with the former mayor, Letta Jean Taylor, so it's always good to be here. I will ask for one thing before I answer the question. Can I at least get a smile? I mean, I know it's Monday morning, and you all look like y'all ready to eat nails for breakfast or something. It's not that bad. This is going to be a great conversation. I promise you get something out of it if you're ready to receive it, okay? Can you nod? That's all I ask. Now, if the smile go away, at least I got one. I'm happy I got one smile from everybody. All right, so growing up in Asheville, you know, my mom was a single parent. I'm the oldest of 4 children, and it was hard at times. My mom was pretty tough on me. She was a teenage mom, and so as I got older, she had high standards for me because she didn't want me to make some of the same mistakes she had made at my age, and so she repeated the things that my grandfather would say to her when she was my age, and one of the things she would say, she didn't like circle grades. She only liked straight A's. She only liked straight grades. And I was like, ooh, that's hard. So she raised the bar. It was one of those things that for my mom, she knew that education was a gateway, that if her children could get a good education, that they would have great opportunities. And so she really pushed education, and so that was important to her.
So how did growing up in a single-parent home shape you to the person that you are today?
So my mom, by the time I really understood what I needed to do and had to do, especially as a teenager, her faith was very important, and that's something she instilled upon us. And so for us, we were that family that was at Sunday school, that was at church, and if they had a 6 p.m. service, we were there. I was on the junior choir, I was on the usher board, and so involvement within the church was important. My mom is a minister. She has been speaking the word of God for over 30 years, so we volunteered in the community as a family, and she's a big supporter of helping people who are homeless, and so there would be times when we take in uncles, cousins, friends, people we didn't know, She was always safe about us, but she would always give people an opportunity to get a leg up, and so she would help them, whether it's in our home or outside our home. So having the opportunity to be with her, making good grades required a lot of studying. So one of the outlets that I did do to get away from her and all that was I was active with activities. And so I started cheering when I was in the 7th grade and did all the way through high school and did debate club, so different things to stay at school a little bit longer.
So growing up in a single-parent home, your mother was 16 when she had you.
She was.
Is that right?
She was.
And so growing up in a single-parent home, your mother did not have a chance to finish college. Your father was not in your life.
Right.
There's a distance between that scenario and being mayor of Asheville. Could you have imagined early on? I mean, what were the kind of highest aspirations that you had early on as a child? What did you want to do or to be early on?
Well, as a young person, I knew I wanted to be a judge. That was my aspirational job. When I was younger, I wanted to be an attorney. I loved law shows, and I would watch them growing up. But for me, hard work was something that my mom required. Whether it's in school, whatever it was, she wanted us to do our best. And so she really required that. And not only my mom's story is something I think about when I decided to run for mayor, I think about my grandmother's story. So my grandmother worked for Brooks Howell Home, and for you all that do not know what that is, it's a place for retirees who are well-to-do, pretty much. My grandma cleaned rooms. And so as a young person growing up in Asheville, I knew that I didn't want to clean rooms, and I didn't want to work that many jobs to be able to live in my city. And so I knew that college was a way, and as I was growing up, I would always hear that if you get a good education, you have good opportunities.
So where did you apply as you were thinking about the college process was there any doubt in high school that you were going to college?
No, my high school counselor is here, and he was here, came up and said hello. No, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to college, and so I applied to state schools because I knew I couldn't afford to go to a private school. My mom was very clear about her limited ability to be able to help me. I applied to UNC Charlotte, UNC Greensboro, Chapel Hill, and I got into them. I was waitlisted for Chapel Hill and was deferred to the spring semester, but I couldn't stay in Asheville, so I went to UNC Charlotte.
So tell us about, so you're entering UNC Charlotte, and you're feeling really confident, you're feeling scared, you're ambivalent, you're ready to tackle the world. What was it like as a freshman at UNC Charlotte?
At UNC Charlotte, it was very eye-opening. I lived a fairly sheltered life, in the mountains of western North Carolina. I didn't have a lot of exposure to certain things. Going to UNC Charlotte, I was exposed to a lot of different things, and I had to make a lot of different choices, and specifically the issue of to drink or not to drink. Of course, still under the age of 21, but you're on a large campus and the alcohol was prevalent, and to drink or not to drink was one of the issues that I was confronted with when I first got there. And I realized that I'm not a good drunk. I can't speak for anybody else. I'm one of those mean drunks that would go off on people. And so I learned that one of the things that changed my mind about drinking alcohol was I wanted to pledge a sorority. And there were lots of young ladies on campus who wanted to pledge this particular sorority. They hadn't had a line in a while, and they had a certain caliber of person that they wanted. I knew I had the grades, but I couldn't get a reputation of being this mean person if she drank, so I just gave up drinking completely. Not that I was supposed to, but I knew that that wasn't my journey, and it took someone to show me that there was something greater out there for me if I would not do that. And so UNC Charlotte was a great opportunity in a lot of different ways, but it also showed me how to make better choices.
So you chose English as a major. How'd you end up?
I did.
How'd you end up going that direction?
I love writing, and I love reading. I fell in love with Chaucer and Shakespeare, and just looking at English literature and the journey you could tell or you could read, and I just saw it as a path, and I enjoyed it.
So did you go to a classical high school? How did you end up choosing that kind of a path?
Well, I knew that if I was, again, I told you I wanted to be a judge, and I knew law school involved a lot of writing. And there are certain things that you'll learn, as in political science, in law school again, and I didn't want to do that. But the one issue that people who are in law school would have their freshman year would be the rigor of the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that if I had an English degree and I understood how to write thematically and contextually as well as grammatically correct, I would be more successful.
So did you grow up in a family of faith?
I did. My grandmother, faith was a big thing, but I didn't own it. You know, as a child, you go to church and you sit in there, and half the time some will have some of these looks that I have some of you all giving me right about now, that you check the box that in order for me to go outside later on, I have to go to church so I can sit through, I can endure this for 2 hours. And it wasn't until later that I really owned my relationship with Christ, that it wasn't just go to be seen or go because I had to, it was go because I needed that in my life.
And what was it that led you to a place where you ended up owning your faith?
So the big transformation happened when I joined a church called River of Life International. And it was as if the pastor just took blinders off my eyes and took the muffle off my ears that I could hear that the Bible wasn't just words on a page written 2,000 years ago or longer, that the God that Moses served as he was leading the children out of Egypt, or the God that Luke had doubted in at times or at a time, that he was the same God today, he is the same God yesterday, but he will be the same God tomorrow, and that he is there for me. And so it was just as if the reality of that word becoming life, the Zoe, the power of the word came to life.
So we want to bring you into the conversation as we've done in the past. You've got the text number up here. David, I am having some technical problems. My phone is actually not turning on. I don't know why. And my iPad is not connected to the Wi-Fi here. So I need a password for the faculty staff. I don't know what the password is. I suppose I should. But the Montreat faculty staff, if someone can run up a password here for me, I can connect and get the questions. Thank you. So, Terry, as we talked this morning, and as you've unpacked some of your story, even so far this morning to our students, one of the themes that has really come out is that you have overcome some real obstacles. What does it mean for you when you think about our students, when you think about your own life, when you think about others, and you think about the word overcoming? Unpack that a little bit for us.
I'll just, I won't go into a lot of what we talked about earlier just yet. I'll just say this, that sometimes in life, you have something in you, and I like to call it a calling. I agree that I think you would call it a calling as well, that you have a burden to do it. And when you explain it to somebody and they give you that scrunched up nose look, or they look like, what? But you can't shake it. It's something that you've thought about. It's something when you see someone else do it, you complain about it because they're not doing it as good as you think you can do it. And it's that thing that bugs you, keeps you up at night, or when you see it being done, you complain about it because they didn't do a good job with it. That's for you to do. And not everyone will understand that thing, that drive, that calling that you have, not even your parents sometimes, not even your friends, because God's given it to you to do. That thing that makes you nervous when you think about it, that thing that you think you can't do, but you can't shake it, that you've thought about previously, again and again, that's for you to do. And when people tell you you can't do it, they don't understand the relationship, that vertical relationship that you have with the Maker. They don't understand who God is to you, and so they don't get the same download that you get. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. If they tell you you can't do it, think about ways that you can do it, even if it's step by step. You know, the proverb talks about how do you eat an elephant, one bite. Well, first, I wouldn't eat elephant, but anyway, it's one bite at a time. Or your first step on a long journey is one step at a time. And so that thing in life that someone's told you you can't do, don't allow that to resonate with you, because if you do, you won't become who you're supposed to be. You don't have that purpose. That's your purpose. And I'm a strong believer in a purpose-driven life, that we have purpose for being here.
And what do you think that purpose is?
I think it's different for everyone. I think everyone has their own journey. I mean, like your journey led you to Montreat, but there are things that you did in your life that prepared you to be effective in this position. And there are some things that you're doing here at Montreat, and you think that this will never mean a hill of beans outside the real world. But I disagree. The Bible talks about that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. All things. So everything that you've gone through in life, every little thing that you've gone through, it is working together for your good. No matter how bad it is, because eventually, if something's happening in your life that was bad, I guarantee you know how to talk to somebody who's also endured it to tell them how to come out of it. Or something that's good that's happened. If any of you run track, there are certain things that you have done that has prepared you for your race that you could tell someone else to prepare them. Some of you who have written papers or writing papers, there are certain things that you have learned in your ability to write as a senior or a junior that you could tell a freshman that will help them be more successful. All those things are working together for your good, but it's His glory. When you give Him glory, it becomes easier. He unpacks things for you.
So as we talked this morning, one of the things that I saw you kind of light up on when we talked this morning was when people tell you that you can't do something. So people have told you along the way that you can't do things. How does that motivate you?
I developed a little saying, nothing beats a can't but a try. I got to try it. And when I ran for office originally, you got to the good stuff that I've been mayor and yada, yada, yada for 8 years. But when I originally ran in 1999, I was 27 years old, and the average age of the council was about 60-something. And so here I am, 27, thinking I'm going to run for that city council. And I spoke with the person who helped Maggie Lauderer when she ran for Congress against Congressman Taylor, and this was in the 90s. And he made this list: Republicans, Democrats, and at the time it was either liberal or really conservative. So no progressives at the time. So liberals and conservatives and a little bit in between. And he said, Terry, if you get everyone on this list to agree with you and to support you, you'll win, but you can't do it. What? Okay, if I can't do it. And what he didn't know, after he gave me the list, I looked at it and I was just like, oh, I know that name, I know that person. I had gone to school with like half the students of the people that were on the list. I was like, no, I got this. So I took the list, and I'd heard some speaker.
He was trying to be friendly to you?
He in his own little way, he was trying to help me or to let me know that don't even try it. Don't even bother, because you can't do it, because the city's too divided. And he was trying to be nice with his long list of can'ts. And I just knew that God had called me to city council. I did. And the first person I called, I had gone to high school or all the way through school with his son. And I was just like, hi, this is Terry Bellamy. Terry Whitmire. This is before I got married. This is Terry Whitmire. I was calling to see if I could speak to Lou Bissett, former mayor of the city. And he gave me 15, I only asked for 15 minutes of the meeting, because this is what I went into the meeting knowing. Most people like to hear themselves speak. And if I could get him to tell me his vision, and I tell him my vision, our visions are going to be the same. And if he understood, based upon my research of him, that I can do what he wanted to continue to see happen in our city, that our visions can work together, that he will support me, and that's what happened. So we started out talking about Thomas and his, that we had gone to school all through elementary school, middle school, high school, and where Thomas was, and how proud he was of Thomas. And I said, Thomas was a great guy. And I said, I know Thomas would love to see these things in Asheville: affordable housing, good education, and our seniors to be successful. He did too. And so my vision was his vision, just restated differently. And it just meeting by meeting, I was able to tell people about my vision for Asheville, and it was our shared vision. And they supported me, and I won. I won, and the numbers didn't add up. I had pundits telling me that it would not happen. I have a professor at UNC Asheville to this day who cannot understand why I keep winning elections. But anyway, the thing about it was the numbers didn't add up. There were not enough African Americans. I was too young. It didn't make sense. But when you have that calling, you have that thing that God has called you to do, it doesn't matter if it adds up to man. You guys got to stand in faith.
So, Mary, for us, two concepts. One is when someone tells you you can't do it, it lights a fire in you. That's one concept, which some of us really feel viscerally, this kind of competitive nature, or this don't tell me what I can't do, or I'm an overcomer, obstacles are to be overcome. That's one, and then the sense of call. Marry those two for us.
And it goes back to just what I said. Everybody's not going to understand what you have on your life, what your purpose is. And in their meaning well to help protect you or to shield you from the big bad world, they may tell you you can't do it. But if it's your call and your journey, your purpose in life, you can't allow those words to stay inside of you. You got to, thank you, appreciate that comment, but you got to move forward. And it may take you longer than someone else, but if it is for you to do, you shall achieve it. I heard somewhere, if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, you can achieve it. But your mind got to conceive that you can do it. And my mind conceived that I could be mayor, and I did. And the first time I ran for mayor, I lost, and I was serving on city council. I lost so badly, the news didn't even interview me. I lost so badly, it was deplorable. And then I got punked, because then I got elected by my colleagues on council to serve as vice mayor. I said, God, you got to be mad at me. How is it I'm going to lose an election, and then I got to sit at the right hand of the person I lost to and serve under his leadership? This is a joke. But it was training. It was training for me to understand how to do the job as mayor. It was training for me to understand the intricacies of being a mayor versus a council member, because there was a significant jump that as a council member I didn't recognize. It was also an integrity training. Would I go out as vice mayor and try to overshadow the mayor? Would I go out to speak on his behalf and belittle him? But instead, I would go out and I said, on behalf of Charles R. Worley, mayor of the city of Asheville, we would like to welcome you to the city. He couldn't be here, but he did send the best, but he sent, I would make sure that I represented his vision for the city. One little thing that I don't tell often, but I'll tell you off. Don't tweet this. Because I knew that God had called me to be mayor, to get ready for that position, we used to have something, a paper resolution, so we'd send out our agenda, and it would have his signature and his name on it. There was this thing called whiteout, so I would white out his name and write my name and then practice my signature. Because I knew one day that I'll be writing it for real. Because I knew one day it won't be just practice. I knew one day that my picture would be at City Hall because I had a vision for our city, I cared about our city, and I knew I had a God who believed in me to be able to get it done.
Tell us about the role that trust played when you became vice mayor. You said you had to represent the mayor's vision. Mm-hmm. It wasn't easy serving the mayor, the person that you had lost the race to, and yet how important was it that you built genuine trust and not just said the right things?
It was a hard issue, first of all. How do you deal with losing and having to confront or sit beside the person that you've lost to and do it in a way that was classy? Mm-hmm. And for me, it was all about, I can't read the Word of God and not live the Word of God. It's one thing to read about loving your neighbors, pray for those who despitefully use. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to live it. And so I had to live it. I had to think about, okay, I've been hurt, and how do I rise above this hurt to show genuine love? Because if I love the people, regardless of if I'm mayor, vice mayor, or on council, I have to serve the people. And so I took the focus off of me and my feelings, licked my wounds, and healed, and focused on serving the people and being an effective leader for my city.
So I want to invite your questions. Technology is working for me again, so feel free to text your questions in. So people say, it's commonly thought that integrity and politics don't really work together very well. How is it that you maintained your personal and professional integrity in a system that does not always reward integrity?
You know, the Bible also talks about where sin abounds, grace much more abounds. Mm-hmm. So as believers, we can't go into only places that are godly and in good place. Because why do you need light if everybody else has light? You got to go in places where there's darkness, because only light can dispel darkness. Darkness can't dispel itself. You know, the Bible also talks about, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and he said the earth was without form and not without void. But in that part, in the first beginning, he talks about light. He said, let there be light. Are you all light, or are you going to conform to darkness? When you walk into a room and someone's stealing something, are you going to join in and steal with something because everybody else is stealing? Or are you going to be like a person of integrity and you pay for yours and you out? If everybody else is in there cheating and you see them passing the answers and they cheating, it goes by you, do you continue to pass it, or do you say, I study and I'm good? If everybody else is doing mollies or smoking and is not supposed to do, are you going to join it? You're light. Light don't fit in. Light gets talked about. Light walks in a room and light changes the atmosphere. I don't care what everybody else did as elected officials. I know what I'm called to do. When people would come to me with their issues, I cared about the people. When we would sit in public hearings for hours, I was sitting there copious notes, listening to the people, not already decided my vote. I want to hear, that makes sense to me. Okay, I didn't think about that. I don't care what they do, only because that's the problem. Too many people conform because it's easy to conform. It's hard to stand out. It's hard to be the only one. It's hard to be different. But when you're called to be light, you got to let your light shine. He said, let your light shine before men, that they may glorify us, they can glorify him. I got to be light, regardless.
So you started as a council member, then vice mayor, and then you became mayor. As you look back on what were the most important experiences that you went through to become mayor, what are the 2 or 3 things that come to mind, the most important things in preparation for becoming mayor?
Partnership building. The one thing that happens is you have great ideas, and it's like, my idea is the best idea. Well, your idea may be, for me, ideas were great, but they became better when I included other people. They became better when I took a little from the left, a little from the right, and we met in the middle. They became more effective. So, to understand economic development, I had to sit with developers to understand, why is the profit margin important in a way that those who say you're just capitalists can't see? What is it? Help me to understand how you see things versus how they see things. But then go to the other side. Why do you decry that they want to make money and they're providing jobs? What's the issue? So meeting in the middle to understand that. So I didn't understand a particular legislator. I couldn't understand how he thought. Look, you're a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. At the end of the day, why are we not getting along? What is it? He liked racing, NASCAR. I ain't never saw a NASCAR race, never been to a race. But that was his thing. So I went with him, and he taught me cars, but more importantly, he taught me how he thought. So I had to get out of my way of thinking. First, build partnerships. Then I had to see, I can't always look at life only through how I see things. I got to understand how others who I work with also see things in order for me to be able to work more effectively with them. Those are the two things that I think help transform my way of thinking and operating, which helped me to become mayor.
That's very other-focused. That's consistent with the gospel, isn't it?
It is.
So your first day on the job as mayor, you're 33. You've been council member, vice mayor. When you walked in your first day as mayor, was it more, I got this, or holy cow, what have I got myself into?
It was more of, okay, I didn't do it, but okay, you still mad at, okay, that mayor's gone, and he left, okay, wow, you mad at this person, but that's not me, why are you blaming me? It was, wow, anybody here happy? I mean, it was just problem after problem after problem after problem, so I had to, okay, breathe. Okay, it was completely different from being a council member. Different, even though being vice mayor, it was, they're just going to, they won't listen to this one. They're not getting the information. Why aren't they included in this conversation? Going to meetings where people who should have been stakeholders at the table were not invited to the table. So it was a lot of, wait a minute, you all are not used to my leadership style. First, let's assess. A lot of this is miscommunication. You need to talk to this person. And I began to connect people and not take credit for it. Like, just go talk to this person and talk to them about these issues because you don't have all the information. Or you're mad, and that was 2 mayors ago. We have a different administration. We have different things in place. That's not going to happen because that's not a top priority. So let that go. So it was a lot of taking the opportunity to hear people's concerns, first of all, because people want to be heard. And a lot of it, people were not being heard. They were talked at and not talked to or engaged. And it's a point of, okay, you want me to respect your position, but you got to respect mine as well. So it was a lot of going back and forth.
So we've got some questions coming in from our students. The first one is, what was the hardest thing being a Christian as being the mayor of Asheville?
The hardest thing is when your faith and public policy don't line up. When faith and public policy don't line up.
Give us an example.
So, when we had the issue before North Carolina had the right to vote on the definition of marriage, I had been taught one thing, but public policy was saying another thing. And my grandmother used to say I was betwixt and between, because I didn't know how to reconcile the two, because it was too big of an issue, and I personally hadn't reconciled the two of what I grew up with and being taught with what public policy is saying. The Constitution says that everyone has a right to pursue happiness. And, in the pursuit of happiness, we have life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And it's just, okay. As an elected official, I'm sworn to uphold the Constitution of North Carolina and the Constitution of the United States, not inconsistent therewith. And so it's just like, what do you do with this? The word on one side and the Constitution on the other side.
So what did you do with it?
I stood on my faith. I said I can support the registry. I asked to bifurcate the vote, and they wouldn't let me. So I said, I can't, at this moment, say that marriage is between a man and a man, a woman and a woman. I can't, but I can say that we need to have a registry, they need to have benefits. Let me vote that way. And my counsel said it's all or none. Either you vote for it all or you vote for none of it. So I said, none of it. Because at that time, my faith says this. and I couldn't get to where I was with the public policy. And I tried to do half of it, and they said all or none.
Was there backlash?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
The backlash, that was the worst backlash I'd seen ever. From the threats via email, the personal threats, the treatment in public. It was pretty bad. It was in your face. It was from doctors, just a number of people. And I kept some of those emails because I was just like, I can't believe that because I couldn't go there, because at the time I was just like, this is new. We were ahead of the curve in a lot of different ways. North Carolina hadn't voted on the issue. The Supreme Court hadn't made the decision. Asheville was a leader on LGBTQ questioning issues. We were a leader in that arena. And so the domestic registry is part of it, health benefits and all that. We were a leader in that area for our council. And part of it was how the proponents of the legislation that was being proposed treated the issue. And so to hear the radio station and hear the main proponent say, well, we knew she wouldn't go against her spiritual father, and we knew we couldn't beat her any other way, so we had to bring this issue up now. And it wasn't about the people. It wasn't about the benefits. It was more about to get me out of my seat because I was doing a good work. That was the part I couldn't understand. I said, so you would rather hurt a city, you would rather hurt the people who I'm working for, affordable housing, working for economic development, to get me out of a seat and bring up an issue in a way that isn't let me go half to where I am and bring me along on the other part, just because you'd rather have the person you like in the position? I couldn't believe it.
And was that vote in your first or second term?
That was my second term.
So you didn't have a chance to run again?
I could have, but that's when I ran for Congress, but I didn't. And I think that I did not completely heal to after I got out of council for that. And I couldn't understand why the motives of I'd rather have you out of office even if you're doing good work, to have somebody in to do a one issue or what I can control. I couldn't understand that because I'm thinking, that doesn't make good public policy. If we bring me along, help me to understand, help me to appreciate where you are, as opposed to demonizing me, that didn't help. And when that vote happened, I tried not to treat issues in a negative way or other issues in a negative way, because I was determined not to lead like that. I refused to lead like that.
So another question from our students is, in such a polarized political climate, extreme voices to the right and to the left seem to be the only ones heard. How does a moderate voice get heard in this political environment?
Keep shouting. Keep being the light. This is the thing. I believe most of you live your life in the middle. I could be wrong. I hadn't done a survey sample. I didn't ask you all your preferences, but I think most of you are willing to pay taxes to help people, but you want to make sure they're accountable for their behavior. I think that you, in general, believe that you want good government, you want transparent government, that all lives matters, that when Black Lives Matter, they're saying, see me, see my issues, don't think that I'm going to shoot you just because I'm an African American or a Black person. I think that most of you want good roads, good schools. I hope you do. And so that's middle. But when we say that we can't have it unless it's one way or the other, I don't think that's right. And I think there's a lie that's being told to people, and people are believing it. Nothing's been taken from you. Nobody's took your country away from you. You're still American citizens. So when people say, we got to take back our country, where are you going to take it? What you need to do is stand up for her. Stand up for equality. Stand up for the environment. Stand up for affordable housing, stand up for education, stand up for, you don't have to take it anywhere. We're still, the state lines going to still be the state lines, not going anywhere. But what is going away are people who will stand up for what's right and who are becoming quiet because those on the left and the right are more boisterous in their efforts to silence those who are different.
So you touched on the issue of race. I want to kind of go there a little bit, a couple of questions. What was it like for you as a African American to become mayor, and how did you think about that as representative of the African American community or not? And secondly is, I'd love for you to share your perspective on Black Lives Matter with our community.
It was hard. It was harder. I got questions that no other previous mayors had been asked. Most people don't even, the level of scrutiny intensified. The level of reports on my travel, where I went, who I went with, who did I have lunch with, what conference did I attend, what meetings did I go to while I was at the conference. It intensified, but I had sage advice. I had a person tell me, you dress for the job you want, not for the job you have, so I always looked the part. I had an African American business owner who was on the chamber board and eventually chamber chair, who said, when you go to meetings, you have to be well-read, well-versed, and you must know more than anybody in the room. So I had to be just as prepared, if not more so, than everyone in the room. I had to get mentors around me to help me with different things, to help me be able to see things differently. So one of my mentors is Janet Cohn. She's the athletic director over at UNC Asheville, one of the only female athletic directors of a university her size in the country. So I just had to equip, and I will never forget this, that when President Obama was running, he was then Senator Obama, and he won, and I was at a victory party, and I had this elderly white man come up to me. And he said, Mayor Bellamy, I voted for Obama today because of you. It's like, okay, I was an early Obama supporter. And I was like, oh, thank you, I appreciate it, and it worked. He said, no, you don't get it. He said, I saw the job that you did. And he gave me the faith that I needed to be able to vote for him. So that made me feel good. And I did have elderly African-American actually 2 men tell me, if you mess it up for us, you mess it up for a long time.
Wow.
So I took the job seriously. I may have taken it a little bit too seriously at times, but I took it very seriously because I knew it was an honor to be the first African American, male or female, to have that seat.
And what about Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter, it's a little discouraging when I have people who make fun of it or belittle it. From my perspective, see me. They're saying, see me as an individual, see me as a race, see me that I would like to have a job, see me that I want a good education, see me that just because I am walking down the street, pants down, with my Beats headphone, that I'm not going to shoot you as a police officer. See me. Black Lives Matter. See our struggle. That we shouldn't have to have our hands up everywhere we go, that we shouldn't get pulled over in a nice car if I'm driving my mom's car and I get arrested because my mom's name is Smith and mine is Whitaker. See me. Give me a benefit of a doubt that I am all right. Just because I'm black doesn't mean that I'm going to hurt you. See me. And I think that it can be trivialized because, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Yeah, all lives do matter. And they're not saying that our lives don't. It's just, see me. See my hurt. See the unemployment rate for African Americans are higher than the national average. See that the educational gap exists. See how many African Americans are dropping out of school. See me. See how many, the lack of diversity when you go into your bank, the lack of diversity when you go into places that you go. See black lives do matter, and make sure that you understand that they matter so that it's not discounted when they're shot. See me, hear me, understand my issues.
Thank you. So we're nearly out of time. There's so much more I want to cover. There are a lot of questions we're not going to get to. I do want to ask this. You ran for a congressional seat in 2012. You lost in the primary, and that was your second political failure, if I can use that word. You ran for mayor, and the first time you were not elected mayor. You ran for Congress, didn't win the primary. The road of adulthood has failure. How have those experiences shaped you, and how do you get past them?
So now I am working on durability and endurance to deal with the failures. I will not develop Teflon tough skin. Because if I develop Teflon tough skin, I can't receive feelings of what the people's hurts are, nor can I give them out. So I won't do that, because too often they tell elected officials, say, you need to develop tough skin. Yeah, it'll get a little tougher, but it won't be so tough that I can't feel the hurt of people, because that's what's wrong today. Too many people have Teflon tough skin, and they can't hear the cries, feel the pain of the people, and they're not making public policy that makes sense to the average American. So I will run for office again. I will do it again. And if the people say, well, I don't want a moderate, fine, and they want polarization, I'm not your candidate. But if you want somebody who will work with the left and the right, someone who believes that most people live their lives in the middle, someone who understands the hurt of people, someone who respects all people, who understand that Constitution as an elected official has to be upheld, whether at the local level, state level, because we have charters, Constitution. But regardless, that's who I am. And I cannot deny my faith. Am I going to go out, and part of why I was quoting scriptures today is because I felt comfortable and because I was told that I could talk about faith because of Montreat. But it's not my job to go out and try to be apologetic for the belief. But it is my job to show it. It is my job to show love. It is my job to show light. It is my job to point people to the way when they need it. It's my job to pray for you all when you don't think I'm praying. It is my job to do that.
So last question. I'm going to cheat a little bit by having a two-part question here. One is, and we're out of time, so these need to be brief answers. One is, if you've got students out here who are thinking about public service, give us your brief perspective on whether you think Christians should enter public service. And number two, what do you think of the current primary season for the presidency?
Okay. Yes, the first answer is yes, do it quickly, and don't be ashamed about it. Do it because it's needed. The second is that your homework for tonight and before March 15th, before North Carolina's primary, is I want you to see and count how many times people are talked about, average Americans. I'm not talking about Wall Street. I'm not talking about policies. I want to know how many times that they talk about the issues that impact your colleagues, and pray. Because I think too often we're getting lost into saying things. And as mayor, when I think about the policies that we needed from our federal government and what's being talked about today, they don't line up. I'll give you an example that's one of the most critical and most divisive issues, and that's the Second Amendment. And the realities is the things that they're talking about right now are not what's impacting our street. A 17-year-old boy lost his life just last week in Asheville, North Carolina. He wasn't shot by a registered gun. It was an illegal gun, and they all had them. There's 4 of them. They all had them. The discussions that are being discussed are not realities that's facing and plaguing our major cities across this country. And so for that issue, instead of them fighting at each other, talking about registration of who has what, that's not what the issues that most cities are dealing with. We're dealing with illegal guns, sawed-off shotguns, guns that can have bullets that pierce the bulletproof vests of our officers. Those are the things that they need to be talking about. How do we eradicate those illegal guns? How do we get to the heart of changing the mindset of our young people so they don't have to shoot each other? So I just ask that, think about it. When you're listening, listen for the solutions that have been offered for day-to-day lives that you all live. And tell me who's the right candidate when you think of it from that lens.
Terry, thank you for joining us today for a very, very thoughtful conversation. Please join me in thanking Terry Bellamy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great Monday.